Hey, y'all. I hope everyone's well. I am here. I am doing content this Tuesday. I was supposed to tattoo, but those things fell by the wayside for today, just for a little bit. Um, but I have been doing these lives and I've been doing really good with them, so I wanted to keep them going. I am less one person. My apprentice quit. Yeah, she quit. And in this is my fourth apprentice, third one to quit and not make it through to tattoo. Um, Me and my client, my customer friend, she's not really just a client, she's a friend, a long time tattoo client, Maxine. And I were talking because she's experiencing the same thing where she's doing nursing. She's a lactation consultant, an international lactation consultant. And she also has girls around her who's, I want to do what you do, and da 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 da. And when we tell them, we're OG aunties, as she calls us. Um, when we tell them it's hard work, there are sacrifices, there are things you're going to have to do, and all of those things. And when it doesn't feel so nice and kitschy is when people start to take offense, take things personal. So we started talking about one of the best ways to work through this, and what may be one of the best ways to work through this. And we decided that somewhere in programming should be the reminder and the practice of leave your ego at the door. Because anything that is being done in a space where you're learning how to do it probably isn't being done with you in mind. Like, it's not being done for you, it's not about you, right? So we were talking about that, and she was saying that, one of the ways that she gets through her day to day is to leave her ego at the door. She's doing lactation consultant to be able to feed her family. It's not just about her. So it's not about, all the things, and this isn't, if somebody just treats you asinine, that's one thing. But being able to discern when something is just stern and direct. Maybe it doesn't feel good because you're not accustomed to it. Maybe you're accustomed to getting what you want. Maybe there are, just decision making or problem solving exercises that you have not, you haven't done. There are problem solving muscles that you have not developed and or exercised yet. So with that, leave your ego at the door. Come get the work, apply the work, and take it home so that you can grow the next day. Anything else is outside of that space. Um, so yeah, so we were just having that concept. I really do need to, I want to flesh it out a bit more, and do a blog post on it. Leave your ego at the door and what that looks like with emotional maturity. Um, because while I can say in jest that as she was saying everything, I didn't have anything to come back with. Not because, I'm a shit person, not because I did something asinine, like not for no other reason other than every time I come to my studio for any reason, it's my studio and I still leave my ego at the door. If I'm apprenticing somebody, whatever you are here for in terms of apprenticing, that's larger, that's bigger than this just being my studio. I want to see you do great, which means that the same way there's toughness in the world, there's going to be toughness in the studio. And not necessarily the same way. I have to reframe that. I was always taught that a lot of times what seems like tough love, or what seems tough is really tough love, because you want to be able to have that person build up a resistance, a resilience, even, so that when people in the world come at you sideways and even worse than what you thought you got with tough love, then you have resilience to navigate through it. You have the actual tools to navigate through it, and not in just accepting anything or anything like that, but being able to, one, discern, is this tough love? Like, does this person mean me well, or is this person being a complete asshole? um Sometimes tough love can look like a person being an asshole because they want to challenge you to be great. They want to challenge you to do your best. I don't get this new generation of just coddling and all that stuff. I pretty much say that anybody in that generation of coddling and such is probably a product of No Child Left Behind. I'm not even gonna hold you. um, Not even gonna hold you. And they don't have the skill set to do the problem solving, to do the decision making, to be resilient. And I can't take that out of my tattoo practice. One, I'm a traditionalist, so I believe in traditional ways of learning, because they're tried and true, right? They haven't left us with so much mayhem more than it's left us with a lot of people who have ideas and critical thinking. They have philosophies. They are not void of critical thinking. Um, and tattoo is a critical thinker sport. Hmm. Yeah, especially if you say that you want to do tattoo from a spiritual standpoint. It's a critical thinker sport. Tattoo is problem solving first, art second, and most people want to see the art first. But you have to build up your resilience and your problem solving skills. So with that, people quit every day in tattoo because they can't leave their ego at the door, whether they're apprentices or artists. Because I've seen tons of artists quit. I've seen tons of artists unalive themselves, because they can't leave their ego at the door. And when you can't leave your ego at the door, you take things personally. Everything is, this is what it is. I'm lazy, I'm a piece of shit, and I'm doing everything wrong, and da 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 da. And then you start spiraling because you've started talking to yourself negatively. All of these things. If you leave your ego at the door, you can actually forego a lot of that shit, a whole lot, because a lot of that is self sabotage, suffering, being too far in the present, or being too far in the present, or too far in the future. Sorry, being too far in the future, type shit. And yeah, no, no, no. So with that, my apprentice quit. It's the fourth one. Third one to quit without making it to being a tattoo artist. And in all three, it has been more around ego and um, what they feel, right? What they feel may be wrong, what they feel, and when I start asking, like, can you tell me exactly? Can you give me exact things? Can you, lay it out for me? They cannot, which is interesting because they want you to lay things out for them. But when it comes to laying stuff out on a very minimal way, a lot of times they can't, lay it out. This generation, and especially in tattoo, I'm noticing, want a lot of things, but they don't want to put forth the effort. They don't want to make the sacrifice. They feel like they're sacrificing. They feel like it's supposed to be fair. Um, and at the end of the day, none of it is. And when you look at things for what they really are, as opposed to what you want them to be, you can navigate a lot smoother, a lot easier. When you leave your ego at the door, if you decide that you want to become a tattoo artist, why? Why do you want to be a tattoo artist? What do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with this skill set? Because other than that, I mean, you can come, you can get the work, but apprenticeships are hard. So if you're not doing it for something that is bigger than you, if you're not doing it for something long term, if you're not hungry, it's going to feel really hard because it's not your first option. It's not the thing you're going to hold with two hands. And that's fine. But as far as a little ink play shop, I can't have those things here. I'm a traditionalist, and in that, my work as an ethno historical, why can't I ever get the last part right? Ethno historiographer. A lot of times words sound wrong to me, so it takes me a long time to get them out, and I'll be like, because in my head it'll just be like, I know what I'm talking about, but I need you to know what I'm talking about, right? So, in being an historiographer, ethno historian, um, and taking the quest to learn more about traditional ways and traditional values of tattoo, from the continent, that also means practicing them. Because part of my argument is we study these things, but we don't apply them. We study them so we can say, hey, look at what culture used to do. But if we studied it less and applied it more, I think just in general, we'd be a lot farther along, and not applied in like, I want to control it way, but literally just applied it to your life. I apply tattoo to my life every day. So with that, because I am a traditionalist, because, there are traditional ways of doing tattoo. There are traditional ways of apprenticing for tattoo, right? And those things are being lost. The same way we've had plenty tattoo traditions from the continent lost. I'm not interested in losing what apprenticeships look like. I'm not interested in losing. Um, yeah, I'm not interested in losing that. I'm not interested in contorting to make someone comfortable when tattoo is really, it's uncomfortable. You don't get comfortable here. You have nomad artists. Nomad artists aren't necessarily comfortable anywhere. They're nomads. So while, that comfort is very temporary, right? Um, and those are things that I think tattoo, apprentices should know, because if you are coming to tattoo because of things you saw online, I can pretty much promise you that it's not that. It's not, you know. You're looking at a pretty filter, and tattoo just is not that. So, while I don't want to damage people who come here, while I don't want to, I'm not here to make anything worse or make life worse or anything like that. But an apprenticeship is to challenge you. hmm It's to challenge you. So if I start being challenging and it's like, okay, this is your comfort level, and I only stay there, there's that. We're not doing that. So, so yeah, so I'm going to flesh this out, leave your ego at the door, because tattoo apprenticeships, life in general, is full of challenges. And when you're not able to look at things from um, different perspectives to do your own due diligence and make a decision that's best for you, those challenges can become, exacerbated. They can become larger, they can become bigger, they can become burdens, even. So with that, this apprenticeships that I offer are meant to challenge people. They're not meant to be cushy. They're not meant to be along with whatever is happening in the rest of life and no child left behind. And, we're going to praise your great efforts and, um, give you head pats and stuff. I'm not giving head pats for you doing the stuff you're supposed to do. I'll say thank you, but but I'm not giving head pats for those things. When you go above and beyond, on your own merit, I'll give all the head pats, all of them. Um, you know, you make it to tattooer, I'm giving you head pats because the fuck, that's dope. But I'm not, no. Tattoo is too, uh, excuse me, as an OG artist, it's it's too special to me, So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Anyway, in case you didn't know, my apprentice quit. Um, but this wasn't about that. It is literally about the ego around people and the apprenticeships and what it looks like to check your ego at the door. I took a Shaker Ray class one year, and with the Shaker Ray class, I think it was last year I took a Shaker Ray class. She said, everything that you've observed, everything that you've learned, leave it outside, because if you bring it in here, it makes it harder for you to learn. It makes it harder for you to absorb the things you need to do, and the instruction that you're giving in this space. It's going to make it harder, and you're going to take things personal, because if I do something different from what you were taught elsewhere or anything like that, you're going to be combated with, how do I make this that? And that may not be the case. And it was very interesting when she said that, because that's what I think leave your ego at the door is. It is very much, if you watch YouTube videos, you saw stuff on Instagram, X, Y, and Z, leave it out there. Because if I go to teach you, I have to now battle with, how do I get you to unlearn bad habits or expectations or anything that may not be realistic from the things you have absorbed to get to the things you need to absorb, so that if you do want to make those things a reality, you have the tools. Hmm. Hmm. Because a lot of times for social media, we're just looking at the end result of something. We're not looking at the work or the process that had to happen for it to manifest. So there's that. So yeah. So anyway, I have to do some content, and I have a website to push out for a client. So I'm going to get to those things. And yeah, those are the thoughts. That's what I'll be rocking with and thinking about um, in the near future and such. Leave your ego at the door. Check that shit outside. Like, you know, leave it at the door. Whatever you're working for, if you are working a job, you making a check is probably bigger than you. If you have a business or you open a business, like, with me opening a little ink play shop, the vision and the vision that you want to put forth, and the success of that vision is probably the why around the success of that vision. All those things are probably they're probably older than you, or they're probably bigger than you, is what I'm trying to say. They're probably bigger than you. So with that, being able to say what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Life isn't comfortable. Life isn't convenient. Tattoo isn't comfortable. Tattoo isn't convenient. Um, and to expect anything otherwise is, a falsehood in real life. Um, Shit, work ain't convenient a lot of times. We're blessed to work into those positions of having more convenience in our lives. But a lot of times it don't just come off the break. That convenience isn't just there off the break. In fact, until you get there, probably going to feel really fucking inconvenient. um So yeah, it's a leave your ego at the door situation. I remember the first time Chris made me cry, and I could have quit, but what I needed and wanted to do here, what I wanted to gain, was so much bigger than the fact that he made me cry, and the fact that I was crying in general. That it wouldn't be until years later, like light years later, when I am not an apprentice, I'm a tattooer. Now, I wasn't a tattoo artist when I started, gaining more insight into how, some of the things I went through helped my apprenticeship. And I didn't go through much. Like, there was stern talks. There was, sometimes fuck this shit, out of frustration, and not towards me, just to be clear, but literally just like, "Ugh, fuck this shit." Um, there were times that Chris seemed cold because he had other things that he had to worry about and he had to get done, and, worried about home, worried about making sure his business is running, even in his absence. It was a lot. So with that, at the end of the day, um, with him, going through those things and me walking through those things with him, it wouldn't be until I become a tattoo artist that a lot of those things started to make sense. And starting from a tattooer, from what it was like to engage with customers. Now I have to engage with customers, but I have to figure out my apartment. I got my apartment for the first time, off of tattoo money. My first apartment, I still live there. I got off of tattoo money. And with that, now I have to worry about how bills play a part and if clients don't show up, and, all of these things that can be stressors. But how do you let it not stress you so that you can do what you need to do with clients and such? How do you stay patient and still trust the process. And that starts from your apprenticeship, that starts from learning. So, with that, with being patient with the process, it's not just you, who has to be patient with the process. The apprenticer has to be patient with the process, that, that things aren't going to go exactly as planned. But these are the particulars of what we're supposed to cover and where we're supposed to get to, type of deal. So yeah, so there's that. So yeah, so I'm babbling now. So I'm gonna stop babbling, but leave your ego at the door. I would love to know your comments, and what your thoughts are about leaving your ego at the door, what that looks like for you, what you jam with there, or not, whichever way. But let me know what this seems like for you. Leave your ego at the door. Hmm. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. I got blog posts coming out soon. Today's Tuesday, so no blog post today, but this live will serve as one. So happy Tattoo Tuesday. Um, Next week I am looking for a story from my book from Shop Gal. Um, from my book from Shop Gal, the memoir. I am looking for um uh some stories to tell. One of them will probably be about the hustle soul separate. um but yeah, when I told y'all the story about me being deported from London, I forgot that I actually talk about that story in my book. Like, I actually talk about that experience in my book. I called it, it's titled, That One Time I Was Too Ambitious, because literally I got deported because I was going to work. Which I thought was wild. It's just hilarious the way it just played out. But also it is kudos to my tattoo master and how I was raised to move about. And kudos to me for, having sense enough to move about in certain ways. But yeah, because there are so many experiences shared in my memoir. I want to, connect you to some of them. So yeah, so thinking about what some of those experiences are, and telling some more stories. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's all I got. That's it. So yeah, so that's it. Um I will probably tell the story about my first tattoo and how it was made meaningful. Because there are a lot of people who get first tattoos and first time tattoos, and they really do need to know some of these things. So I might do that. Other than that, we'll see. We'll see. Um, yeah, leave your ego at the door. That's today's message. And I think it applies to all of us. And I think it is something that is great to practice. Leave your ego at the door. Everything ain't about us as individuals, but it is about our collective growth, our collective understanding, and our collective resilience. So if you leave your ego at the door, you can find those spaces where you can build your resilience, and it's not going to be in a convenient way. Growth never happens conveniently, ever, ever. So, with that, you know, shit is what it is. Leave your ego at the door, like check luggage, and go get that work. Whatever that work is, go be great. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. Jenny.